course in the Delta Regional Authority series of courses. It's the last one of the series, and this is the last session of the last course, which you guys are all a part of now. So so that's why it's a special moment. This is actually the last session of the last course, and you are all spending that time together. But it has been an honor to be with Brown and Mark and Mallory, the DRA team, and others, a number of other instructors who have actually been part of the series. We're just thrilled to have played, hopefully, a role thinking about the things that disrupt our economy. Here's a list, right? There's natural disasters. And it could be man-made disasters as well. If you think about like the BP oil spill would be an example of a man-made disaster. Natural disasters, we heard about some things going on in Indiana just a couple days ago. Last week, where? Louisiana, right? Or when you think about what happened in California with the fires, the fires a week or so ago. So this is part of our everyday life. We're dealing with those things. I know you guys have had your share here in Missouri. I think about Joplin. And so certainly that's one. Reduction in workforce or closure of a major business. How many of you have seen that happen? Yeah. So that's an example. Certainly a significant economic disruption. You may have a loss of the industry altogether because of what recent trends in the last 10 years, and we've driven, if you throw in the Great Recession and that, and some other things. And some of the things we talked about earlier with respect to us becoming more global. There's advantages to that, but there's also some challenges to that we've seen. In some of our communities, we have seen some unrest, and we're seeing that, especially in recent years, I think we've seen that more and more. There's actually, I think it was either through the Washington Post or another similar publication. I can't remember exactly which one it was, either that or Huffington Post, one of those, where they presented a map and looking at the major, basically what they would call significant events with respect to mass killings, or at least 4 or more people were loss of life of 4 or more people. And it was across the United States. And we're seeing this. And so that's obviously an economic disruption. I heard Romney mention to the Ferguson area earlier in terms of how they do business, at least during the time, during that temporary period, however long it is. So yeah, those are all good examples. What about infrastructure? Have you guys ever dealt with things like the water main break? Just asking. Yeah, and that could have some significant disruptions, right? There's all kinds of things that can happen. Actually, IEC did a report looking at the aging infrastructure across the United States, and it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge for communities across the United States, and certainly in our rural regions. So, in recent years, the number of vacant housing units has increased, and there's a variety of reasons why this is the case. But a lot of times, trying to deal with vacant properties is a huge expense, and one that is beyond the resources of what we can do with respect to what we can afford in our communities. A number of reasons. We've already talked about reasons like, for example, disasters and so forth, and lack of all these various things with respect to economic disruptions. But it could be that there's a foreclosure. Could be that the building is obsolete, in terms of its function. Whatever the case, when left alone, it does affect the businesses around it. It has sort of like a psychological effect. There is something with respect to community psychology. The sort of how a physical building can impact how we feel about a downtown, how we feel about Main Street. It can have just an impact on our sense of place for that particular area. And here's an interesting thing. Properties located within 500 feet of vacant buildings can lose as much as 8.7% in value. So 500 feet within those vacant buildings. This is according to HUD. Some challenges. It could be difficult to see revitalization potential. So this gets into sort of the psychological aspects. You know, it's like anything else, we have to believe in ourselves, whether you're individuals or communities. And sometimes it's difficult to do so when we're dealing with, you know, properties that maybe, you know, need refab and so forth, and may not be appealing to the eye, so to speak. Small businesses in neighborhoods can be hit particularly hard, and sometimes there's these underlying issues, these underlying tensions that make it difficult to revitalize an area. And that could be a whole session in and of itself, which, you know, we don't have time for at the moment, but certainly that plays a role in it. But there's also opportunity, and I'm kind of a cup-half-full person, and I always see this as an opportunity, and the opportunity is a chance to regroup, to rebuild, to reinvent ourselves as a community. You know, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. Elliott Downtown plays a significant role. And really what you're looking at is how can you provide opportunities for pedestrian foot traffic? Yes. It's a big one. Yeah. How can you provide opportunities for pedestrian foot traffic, including during the daytime? Because sometimes I see some downtowns where they're doing fine in the evenings and weekends when people are out of work. How can you create that daytime traffic, right? What are some ways that you can do so? And so that's those are some opportunities. I'm going to go into some ideas for dealing with properties here. And you know, you may be in a situation, how many of you are dealing with properties that are in need of rehabilitation? Yeah? Right? And so, you know, figuring out a way to engage property owners as part of the process, you know, making sure that they're part of the solution. So that this is a partnership with them. One of the things that is ideal is to pull them together and to form somewhat of a task force with them. Not just the property owners of properties that are in need of rehabilitation, but all the property owners in a given district. You know, if you're talking about downtown, for example, pull all those property owners together and start talking about how can we work to revitalize our downtown. This is a win-win for all of us, right? It helps the property owners because at the end of the day, it improves the value of their property. Inventorying those dilapidated properties and assessing the cost of rehabilitation and acquisition. So, you know, that gets into sort of the brass tacks of trying to understand individual properties in the area. Here's sometimes a tough one, enforcing zoning. Yeah, sometimes, you know, you may have zoning in place that attempts to address this, and sometimes it's a matter of enforcing. You can incentivize redevelopment in areas. So, you know, try to have, provide an incentive for businesses to go into you know, maybe you reduce their business fees that, you know, you waive some business fees for them. Maybe you give them tax breaks, for example. You know, maybe there's some other things you can do to make it financially more feasible for them to go ahead and locate in a downtown area. This mixed-use environment relates to creating pedestrian foot traffic opportunities. So, you know, places where you can live, work, and play in a given area. And, you know, you can use revolving loan funds for facade improvements and so forth. That's an example, and the CDBG as well. The other thing you can do with respect to dealing with properties is you can give it a sense that the properties are being used. Like, for example, if you have buildings where there's no one in there, you can still use the storefront, the building front. You put nice artistic signs in there and so forth. I think we have somebody in here who does, who has some, you know, creates these nice heritage signs for his community and puts them in the storefronts, right? And you can do that for empty storefronts as well, and it creates this sense that the building's being used. Again, this gets into the psychology of the community. It creates this sense that there's a presence in the building, and so that could be very powerful. Here's some ideas for helping businesses. So, you know, businesses, one of the things they really need help with is visibility, helping people know that they exist, right? And I know this sounds kind of simple, but sometimes just creating an online directory for the local businesses that's easy to navigate. So if I'm looking for XYZ business in a particular area, it's easy to find the businesses that do that. You can host business expos And you can host those business expos in downtown, and then you're bringing foot traffic in downtown, plus you're helping local businesses, right? So you can do that. We talked about succession planning and buy local already. You can also encourage local businesses to buy from each other. There's like these, some communities come up with this, like sort of like a 10% card or something where, they can kind of share that with each other. Or also, sometimes cities have a policy where they will buy X percent of their goods from a city perspective from local businesses and so forth. So there's lots of different ways you can help the local businesses. So here are some ideas for attracting people, the foot traffic, the pedestrian foot traffic to downtown. And this comes out of this group, Downtown Colorado, which is representative of downtowns across the state of Colorado. But they kind of put together a really cool inventory here, which I think is kind of cool. Community outdoor movie nights, theater in the ground, live community murals. How many of you have a mural? Yeah, those are really those can definitely bring energy. What about instrument petting zoos? What's that?
That petting zoo, they were kind of struggling with
the instrument petting zoo.
Yeah.
Well, we talked earlier about having people in band and whatnot, and so this is I think it's kind of an interesting thing with band instruments and whatnot. You can install artisan or art installations. You can set up an artisan market where you have local artists showcase their wares, not just painting and so forth, but pottery and quilting and whatever, kind of thing. What about children's pop-up event? Do you know what that is? So children like to, at some point, a lot of children will say things like, I want to run a lemonade stand, right? Kind of thing. It's a fairly common thing. They'll sit outside in front of their driveway, 10-cent lemonade, whatnot. Children's pop-up event takes that and kind of, takes it to the next level and creates a space for children to come and sell baked goods, lemonade, all kinds of things in the area. What's the kind of beauty about that? Well, the children are doing that. Who do the children attract? Their parents and their grandparents and other people who want to support them. Right. And now all of a sudden you're creating some energy in your downtown area, right? Or in the area that you're seeking to revitalize. Some other things, you can also do a pop-up for entrepreneurs and small business owners. Same concept, where you have local entrepreneurs, and again, they're looking for help with visibility, so you can create temporary pop-ups for them to come and showcase their wares. You can have a complimentary coffee and tea cart kind of situation. If you have a little park in your town square or something, you can just kind of do that and make sure that you have places for people to sit. You can create sort of like a pop-up cafe experience, if you will. You can have food trucks come in and have sort of a food festival, if you will. Here are some other things that just a number of things. You can just simply come, do a call to the area artists and say, do whatever you want, but do something in this area. We would like some new energy in this space, so do something. This is from Corbin, Kentucky, and in 2012 they had a 37% vacancy rate in their downtown, which, I think is pretty high, right? That's a pretty high vacancy rate. And but in February 2016, they could say that they had 20 businesses open in their downtown and nearly zero vacancy. So what happened? Well, the big thing is they partnered with the county farmers market, which wasn't located in the downtown, but was in the county, right? Was in the county, and they brought vendors and live music to the downtown park, and then that kind of spun off other efforts. And what they were doing is leveraging this growing interest that we're seeing in local homegrown food and healthy homegrown food. There's this growing interest that we're seeing across the country in this, and sort of this non-chain local homegrown food. So they leveraged people's interest in that, and that's what happened. That's what they were able to do. You can see some of the other, like they even had yoga and Pilates in the park, kind of thing. You can see some of the other things they did. Of note, when we're thinking about revitalization, results really do inspire people to do more, and so sometimes I think when we think about revitalization, we think we have to do this big master plan, and we have to have all the things just, and a lot of what I was sharing with you, like back here, these are incremental things, right? And so sometimes it's more important just to focus on the things that you can do. And using, you know, I would love, does everybody know what you're doing?
I don't think so.
Why don't you just take, if you wouldn't mind, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but go ahead and take a, and then it could lead to bigger things. And a lot of times in revitalization efforts, we try to wait till we have the, you know, picture perfect master plan in place first. And there's just a number of things that we could be doing that really will make a difference. I think those, the murals are an example of that too. We have murals in downtown. So, we're going to take just a few minutes, and let me see, I think we'll go with 7 minutes this time. But let's take 7 minutes, have some table discussion. How many of you are dealing with these things, and what are some of the strategies you use to employ to deal with these issues? Vacancy in certain locations, lacking infrastructure in affecting some business areas, high unemployment maybe, lack of resources for revitalization, and out-migration. Just take a few minutes, and you know, the three of you can kind of gather there, and the rest of you I think are fine. So, and the big promotion around that. I think the QR code thing is really cool in terms of being able to have people scan key information, historic information and whatnot, and special information. I was in the downtown square, the square right here, yesterday evening for a little bit. I stopped into the antique store, bookstore, coffee, you know, kind of thing. And I came out, and I was just trying, you know, I was riding around, you know, just walking around and whatnot, and I saw signs about, you know, there's people who have done something historic. You know, you can learn. Yeah, you can learn different key, information about some folks who have made a difference. And I thought that was awesome. That was really cool. What about you guys? What some things you've done?
We have an emerging downtown revitalization effort going, and it began 8+ years ago. The county purchased some derelict buildings just to build a parking lot. They were only going to asphalt that parking lot. So I was a new mayor then. We worked with some MoDOT grants and USDA grants to get that parking lot to become landscaped and have some connectivity, accessible sidewalks.
Sure.
And it has a wonderful gazebo now that kind of anchors the downtown.
Okay.
And it's taken this long, but we're starting to have some destination shops pop up. And the IDA worked with our county government. There were 6 buildings downtown that were for sale. So we convinced the county to purchase those, and now we can direct the efforts of what we want in those buildings, and it's all working together as a great downtown revitalization effort.
Yeah. It started with, I heard, a gazebo and a parking lot.
Yeah.
Parking lot and a gazebo. So sometimes it just takes a spark, right? It just takes something to kind of tip things a little bit. Like the pavilion, you know, and then some other things. Okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
I know, I live in Brala, we have a university there, and I know that the university was very much its own silo,
Sure.
and the city's downtown was suffering and such, and so they brought the university in and started working on more of a symbiotic relationship, and now several of the buildings in the downtown have been renovated into student housing. And this has resulted in some subsequent businesses that, you know, wouldn't be there were it not for the students and so on. And yeah, so now they play off of each other a little bit more, and I think it's been a mutual benefit for both the university and the downtown.
So leveraging an anchor institution like the university, right? You know, open it up for student traffic in the downtown area, then you probably have, I can't imagine the kind of businesses, but you probably have some cafes or coffee shops or something that likes to feed your students, and so forth. Yeah, absolutely. So those are all, you know, great strategies. You guys are all doing some really interesting things, and you're seeing, what I'm hearing from what you're sharing is you're already seeing some impacts from that. You can talk about those impacts. And so you can see, you know, this gets back into starting with an incremental approach, which you each have kind of presented some of that, and seeing that the fruit come together and building on that. So here are a couple of resources to run by you. You have this on your flash drive. This is a good resource for rural community downtown revitalization and the revitalization of small downtowns. You can click on those links. On IDC's website, called restoreyourcounty.org, which is a partnership with EDA. It was sponsored by EDA. It's administered by IEC, but there's case studies and other material on dealing with vacancy and blight issues. RestoreYourCounty.org also has resources with respect to preparedness, before disaster, if you will, man-made or natural, and there's free webinars and other kinds of really cool things on there. So I'm going to end our session, again, I started off with saying this was kind of a special moment together, since it's our last session of the last course of the series. And so I thought what I would do is I would kind of cover just a few trends to consider going forward, if you will. And we'll close with this. And these are just some things to keep in mind, no matter how large or how small our communities are. When we're thinking about revitalizing our economies or building our economies, when we're thinking about strengthening our communities. So one is, what's your region? And that is, and this has come out a little bit in the last 2 days, but we're going to see our regional definition depend on quality of place factors that are on a regional scale, meaning that, here's the thing, a lot of times, while we think our jurisdictional lines are pretty darn important, right? And we know that the people that we're serving, investors and average people on the street typically don't know when they're outside your jurisdictional boundaries and in the next one. They're thinking of you as a region. I live in the Atlanta region, even though I don't live in the city of Atlanta, right? But when I think, if I were to tell people, oh no, I live near Cumming or what, where? I'm sorry, I live in the Atlanta region. Okay, yeah, they understand that. So, what's our region is pretty important, and we're going to continue to see that being important. The sport called innovation. So yes, innovation is high tech, but it's also high touch. We talked a little bit already about co-working spaces and other things, and what they're really trying to do is foster face-to-face connectivity. As far as I know, we cannot build a relationship between Facebook or through texting. We can keep up to date on certain things about each other, but we can't build those trusted relationships. And when we're talking about innovation and entering into joint ventures together, it definitely is a high-touch sport. John Naismith, you guys know who he is? He wrote he sounds familiar, right? Yeah? He wrote a piece in 1982 called Megatrends. 1982, folks. That's 1982, right? But he said, whenever a new technology is introduced in society, there must be a counterbalance in human response as high touch or the technology is rejected. We must learn to balance the material wonders of technology with the spiritual demands of our human nature. So again, speaking to the need for us humans to have face-to-face interaction. 3, talent matters. And so, we covered this morning in workforce development, but our competitiveness rests upon our ability to continually develop our people from cradle to grave, so to speak, through lifelong education. Here's a nice little quote by Albert Einstein, which I like, right? He says, once you stop learning, you start dying. Just a thought. I already talked about multipreneuring earlier, but it is a time for multipreneuring. Global economy, one size does not fit all, and our baskets could definitely hold more than one egg. That, by the way, is true when we're talking about workforce development and us developing as people in the workforce. It also is true from an economic development strategy standpoint. Meaning that you've heard in the last 2 days, you've heard us talk about entrepreneur small business development. You've heard us talk about marketing and attraction. And recruitment, and you've also heard us talk about business retention and expansion. You never heard Mark, Ron, and I say to you that you should focus exclusively on any one of those things, did you? Because we did. Because it's all part of your economic development strategy, all those things. And I'd make the argument that if you could create a business-friendly climate for your entrepreneurs and existing businesses, the likelihood is that same climate would be attractive to new business. Very likely, right? Because the same factors come to play. And again, because I've never met anybody besides me who's read the book, I just decided to share with you what this book looks like in terms of this book by Tom Ford. Really, I thought he was ahead of his time. All right, 5, the new definition of success is not about the number of jobs, but about raising prosperity for all, where quality has a greater impact than quantity. So this gets into that economic inclusion aspect of our work in economic development that we've been talking about. 6, the digital world. The failure to bridge the digital divide is resulting in less developed communities within developed nations. And in case you're thinking, now I'm talking about somewhere across the ocean, here in the United States, we do have a digital divide. This is actually from a page off the White House. Even though over 98% of Americans have access to internet services, 1 in 4 does not have access in the home. So the reason why 98% of Americans have some access is it's available in public libraries, and most communities have a library, right? And some of our public school buildings and whatnot. But what happens when we don't have it in the home? Are our children in those homes without internet, are they at a disadvantage, right? And so this is a an important issue for us to be continuing to think about. Good news here, in the last there's a lot of investment with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act following the Great Recession, and it has been some more investment in trying especially to work in rural areas. But before that, there's some really interesting work going on in North Carolina called EMC, and in Kentucky called Connect Kentucky, and looking at bringing bringing broadband to rural areas. So there's some best practices out there with respect to that. 7, I kind of spoke to this earlier about openness being more important than tolerance. Understand that we humans have been developed through diverse circumstances, and to be willing to learn about and respect such differences. We are, golly, our Creator must really like diversity, because look at us. We're a diverse people. And I don't know, there's over a dozen of us in this room, right? And we all bring to the table different experiences, different histories, different relationships, different everything. And all those different everythings affect the way that we see each other. Because we're human. There's no way. And, you guys remember the telephone game, right? Where, by the time you get to the 12th person, they've heard something. Well, I'm here to say that there's over a dozen of us in this room. And the likelihood is you're hearing me talk, but you're hearing me say something a little bit different. It's not because I'm speaking in multiple languages all at once, by the way. It's because we humans are diverse, and that affects how we hear things and so forth. And that's okay. That's what makes us a beautiful people. We just need to learn about that, respect it, and cherish it, actually. I want to throw this out. Who said this? We have become not a melting pot, but a beautiful mosaic, different people, different beliefs, different yearnings, different hopes, and different dreams.
Trump.
Who? Trump. I was wondering if Trump was going to come up this time.
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King? Well, not a bad guess. Not a bad guess. Yeah. Abraham Lincoln. Still not a bad guess. You were closer when to Martin Luther King from a geography standpoint. Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter said this, yes. This is a Jimmy Carter quote. All right. The new status quo 8, get used to the game changing earlier and often. We're stepping outside your comfort zone is the new status quo. See, we're weakening, right? But this is the new status quo in terms of, we're not in a stagnant situation. It's always going to be dynamic, right? The power of one. Despite all this, individuals can and do make an incredible difference. And that's all individuals. Each of us can make an incredible difference. Remember, we all are having an impact on somebody. You can't breathe without having an influence on somebody around you. Someone's watching you from a 360-degree perspective. Somebody's watching you. I know, it's hard, yeah. But even when we're not on, right? People are watching. This could be our loved ones, our children, whatever the case may be. But ordinary people, we ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary goals. We really can. I believe that about all of us. Adaptability is key. Communities and regions are most adaptive and flexible will come out on top. And so that means we just have to be continually responding and addressing and changing with the changing times in ways that make sense. Yet, the basics still apply. So, water, sewer, power, and gas lines remain important as are logistical lines, right? This is still important. I alluded to earlier that there is an IDC infrastructure report. We have an aging infrastructure in this country. Still really important. Those kinds of things can be huge economic disruptors if they're not dealt with. So, still important. So, these are some trends to consider. Some of these are trends that have been underway. Some of these are trends that we need to consider to deal with going forward. And you may be thinking, which way do we go from here? Do we go this way, that way, another way? What do we do with all this information? And the thing is, at the end of the day, 12, success still boils down to leadership. So regardless of the year, the decade, it's really about our ability to partner effectively for positive change. And that's really what it's about, especially when we're serving communities. And so I'd like to close with discussions like this with a quote from one of my favorite authors, which is Jim Collins, author of Good to Great. This is one of the things he closes his piece with, Good to Great. For in the end, it's impossible to have a great life unless it's a meaningful life. It's very difficult to have a meaningful life without meaningful work. Perhaps then you might gain that rare tranquility that comes from knowing that you have had a hand in creating something of intrinsic excellence that makes a contribution. Indeed, you might even gain that deepest of all satisfactions, knowing that your short time here on this earth has been well spent and that right. That's a pretty cool thing when we think about